In order to supplement Deped Order Number 12 Series 2020, entitled Adoption of the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan for School Year 2020-2021 in light of COVID-19 pandemic, Deped Order Number 31 Series 2020, which is entitled The Interim Policy Guidelines for Assessment and Grading, has come to its existence. The topics for my discussion are the rationale, scope, definition of terms, policy statement, policy principles, and policy outcomes. The continuing threat of COVID-19 pandemic in the country and the world brings about unprecedented challenges to basic education. This issuance is a means to adapt to the implementation of alternative learning modalities which help ensure the learners achieve essential curricular goals. These times call for creative and innovative ways of designing optimal learning experiences and in assessing learning progress. These policy guidelines also adheres to the principles of Deped Order Number 8 Series 2015, which states that the assessment should be used to inform and improve classroom practices as well as promote learning outcomes. And last but not the least, under distance and blended learning, we should utilize alternative tools without creating undue pressure on teachers, learners, and their families. That is why this interim policy guidelines is created. This issuance covers all public elementary and secondary schools, private schools, technical vocational institutions, and higher education institutions including state and local university and colleges offering K-12 basic education program are encouraged to implement these interim policy guidelines. Private schools and institutions are permitted to modify these policy guidelines in accordance to their philosophy, vision, and mission with approval of their respective DepEd regional offices. These are the important terms to remember in these policy guidelines. Number one, classroom assessment. As we all know, this is an ongoing process of identifying, gathering, organizing, and interpreting quantitative and qualitative information about what learners know and can do. Formative assessment. This is a process that involves teachers using evidence about what learners know and can do to inform and improve teaching. This process, through the teacher's immediate feedback, enables students to take responsibility of their own learning and identify areas where they do well and where they need help. Also, we have the summative assessment, which will be discussed by Ma'am Raquel Comandante, is an assessment that is usually administered toward the end of the learning period to measure the extent to which the learners have mastered the essential learning competencies, that results of which are recorded and are used to report the learner's achievement. Grading is the way of reporting assessment data by assigning value to the results as a record of students' ability achievement or progress. So these are the principles or the policy statement of these guidelines. The Department of Education is committed to ensure educational continuity in this time of crisis while looking after the health, safety, and well-being of all its learners, teachers, and personnel. Schools must adopt assessment and grading practices that can most meaningfully support students' development and respond to varied contexts at this time. And these are the principles that has been followed by these policy guidelines. Number one, assessment should be holistic and authentic in capturing the attainment of most essential learning competencies. Assessment is integral for understanding student learning and development. Therefore, a variety of statement strategies is necessary with formative assessment, taking priority to inform teaching and promote growth and mastery. Assessment and feedback should be a shared responsibility among teachers, learners, and their families in this time of crisis. And assessment and grading should have a positive impact on learning. These are the outcomes that are expected by these policy guidelines. Teachers, school leaders, learners, and parents should commit to uphold the integrity of learning and instruction in the context of distance education. The main desired outcomes of this policy are to ensure that all learners are fairly assessed and graded in the continuation of education during this health crisis, to emphasize that learning standards should be attained with the provision of reasonable leniency and considerations for possible difficulties met by the learner. So before I would end my discussion, let us remember that learners need endless feedback more than they need endless teaching. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay tayong lahat.